Good afternoon, guys. So here it is, all painted in the final color, which I had mentioned is a PPG car paint. It's a Mercedes color. I really wanted to get a video of this thing getting painted, but again, it's too cold outside. I want to say it was about 11 or 12 degrees Fahrenheit this morning when I painted this, so I could not open up ventilation system. And this is my room. I have curtains all around, and I have these fans over here that I open up. But if I open up the garage door to sort of let some makeup air in as the fan's exhausted, it chills this whole place down real quick. So I couldn't do that. I didn't want my phone to get completely covered in overspray. So anyway, this is what it looks like. I'm gonna let it. It's just a little bit tacky, so I'm gonna wait till maybe late this afternoon, early this evening, to get the masking tape off of it, and then wheel it out into the floor and let you all see it in all its glory. And then I'll start on all the individual pieces and get those guys cleaned up, painted, and start reassembling this thing. So hope you like it, and we'll keep this thing going. See you soon. All right, so I'm going to show you where I'm at right now. So I got my 10EE out of the paint booth. See, I've got it all painted up, and now I'm just starting to bolt down some parts. I talked about it in the other video, that other part of the video, that I wanted to get as many parts as I can on here just to sort of reduce the stack of parts. This way I can remember stuff. Tack in there. I have this just loosely mounted. This is the feed threading selector, or right hand, left hand threading selector. I had to paint the piece in the back around here. So I did that. I cleaned up all the overspray and any places where I've masked that I didn't want to get painted. So what I'm working on right now, I'm working on this idler right here. So let me bring you around over here. So right here, this is the idler pulley right here, and I just stuck it on the lathe and with some emery polished it all off. Right here, I was going to replace these bearings. There's two bearings in there. Turns out they were in good shape. They just were really caked with super old grease. So the way this thing goes together, there's a bearing on both sides. It's an open cage on this side, sealed on that side. So these guys get dropped in there. This spacer, the spacer gets in there. I might have to actually press that in. And then this other bearing right here gets pressed on the other side, and then a couple set screws go right here and right here. I'll go press that in and bring you back. Okay, so here we go. I pressed these bearings in, got the nut on this side, there's a spacer in between, and they're super smooth, super quiet, original bearings. I was going to change them, but I don't see any point in doing that. These are good USA made bearings, stuff I'd get on Amazon, who knows where they come from. So we'll get this guy back on, and like I said, just getting some parts bolted on. All right, let's see here. All right. Okay, so this guy goes like this here. So we'll just snug them up to keep it in place till I get the other belt on. There's another pulley that goes here that drives the drives the belt, open belt. Okay, keep going. Good morning. I really wish that I would have been able to show you what I did with this little indicator for threads left hand feed, threads right hand, goes on the front of the on the Monarch. So my other Monarch, this one is made out of cast aluminum, and it's really robust, and it was easy to. I just painted the whole thing black and then sanded on a flat sheet to expose the aluminum, which gave you the lettering. So this one is a really cheap piece of plastic, and it was in really rough shape. Everything was all worn off. So what I did is I sanded it on a flat plate, this guy right here, and with some sandpaper, got it cleaned up. I painted the whole thing black, and then I took this roller and I sprayed a little, what did I use? I used some metal looking spray paint, got it on this roller, and then just rolled it across here just to highlight the top areas. I wish that this was metal. I wish I would have been able to show you how it worked, but it really came out pretty decent for what it is. Again, just use this as my sort of platen for the paint, and then just rolled it on there. Let me show you on the machine what it actually looks like. So this is on my already restored 10EE, and this one is, you can see it's somewhat, does it look different? It doesn't really look different, but it is different, trust me. This one is cast aluminum. This one is plastic. So that's the situation. All right, so let's get this plate installed. Plate I'm talking about is this one that we just talked about, the way I've got it painted up. We have a woodruff key that goes in here, a little tap in there. Okay. All right, we get the flathead screws that came with this. Came out of this. I'm gonna look on eBay to see if I can't find this plate in a cast aluminum version. At some point I'll change it. It just bugs me that of all the really well-made parts on this thing, that this part happens to be plastic. I'm quite sure that a little bit of years of some cutting oil, WD-40, whatever, this, sort of rattle can paint is not going to hold up. Right in there. At this rate, it's going to take me about 5 years to finish this lathe. All right. Okay, so we got that. Then this selector goes on here. All right. Then you have a spring that goes in here, and then the nut that secures it. I'll have to go find my little spanner for that. I have it. I actually had to make one, and then we'll get that thing tightened up. And that's how this guy works. Okay, all right, that's that part on. So I'm just back on this real quick. So if you noticed before, this was pretty sticky. So what I figured out was the woodruff key was not set all the way in. When I talked about this spanner nut, so this is the little tool that I made. I don't know what this originally came from. But basically, I turned down the ends on these screws, threaded them, There's two different sizes, so that's why I have ones that are farther apart. So that's the size for this one. So just put it in there. These are like 1/8 inch holes, so I just turned down those screws. Okay, it doesn't need to be too tight. Okay, and there you have it. All right, the next pulley I'm going to put on is right here. This is an idler pulley on my other Monarch. This thing, believe it or not, was completely worn with grooves from the belt. I'm going to say probably 1/16 of an inch deep grooves, and what I decided to do was just spin it down on the lathe and clean it up. It seems to be fine. The bearings in this feel great. There's a little bit of noise, so I'm going to take this apart and let's see what's going on inside. So when I say they feel great, I don't feel that, but I don't know if you can hear that noise. So something is rubbing in there somewhere. So let's figure this out. All right, so we got this over on the workbench. Let's get this gummy mess out of here. Adjustables. A lot of muck on here. Shouldn't be this hard. That is not a nylock nut. It's just really full of junk. All right, so let's see here. Same thing as on that other idler pulley. There's two set screws that must retain some sort of a ring inside there. What I'm taking note of is this bearing is down there about, I don't know, 1/4 inch. This, I could see the mark from where it set on the casting in the lathe. So I know that this spacer goes right here. Okay, so I got this out of there. And let's get that other set screw out of there. So I'll have to go over the press. I'll press these out and bring you back. Okay, so here's all the pieces assembled. This is the idler, two bearings. They actually have fairly dry grease in them, so they probably were maintained at some point, not like the other one. All bits and pieces look fine. I'm going to put these through the parts washer, maybe some ultrasonic, and we'll bring you back. All right, guys, through the magic of television, these are the parts all cleaned up. So the bearings are clean, maybe a little gritty. I'm going to blow them out with a little bit of air, maybe run them through the cleaner again. Same with that one. They don't feel rough, but they're definitely noisy. After I got this cleaned up, you can see that, see these marks right here, you probably can't tell, but I can feel it, that they're, sort of, I don't know, if you see it in the right light, you might be able to see that they are actually worn out. I don't think it's bad at all. I might throw it on the lathe and just clean it up a little bit, take a light pass. I did notice in my other lathe that, which was much worse than this one, and I had left it at first, and I wound up having to change the belts and do some other stuff, but I turned it down and it definitely got quieter. So not that it's a noisy lathe, but it definitely seemed to improve the you know, just the smoothness of the running. So maybe it's not worn totally, totally evenly. So I didn't show you how I actually do clean these parts, but I have one of these Harbor Freight ultrasonics. And the reason why I don't film doing that is the ultrasonic messes with my phone and the sound is horrendous. So I just decided not to record that. You know, must be some radio frequency interference with the phone. It does work pretty good though. All right, so I'm going to run these back again through, see if I can't get that to get maybe a little less gritty sounding. And if I do decide to turn this down, I'll show you. I'll show that on the lathe so we can take a look at what that looks like. Probably make a little mandrel to put this in. I think I did that last time, but I think I used the mandrel on something else because I had no plans of actually getting into more 10EEs, but you know how the life is. Okay, so I got the bearings pressed in. This guy goes in here. And it looks like you can probably position this in and out to get some alignment on the belts and then tighten down these two set screws which locates that center spacer. So I'll leave that kind of loose for now until I see where the alignment is, and then we'll make that final adjustment. Then this guy goes right on there, and this guy goes on there. So you'll see when I go to put this on the machine, this actually sits back something like that because there's a bracket that this thing attaches to. All right, we'll go put it on the machine. Okay, here we are at the machine. So this idler goes in here, bolts up against that, and you just adjust this to get the belt tension. So what I'll do is I'll get the belts on here a little later, figure out, you know, where do I want this to run, try to center it on the belts, and then I'll tighten down these set screws. So the next one up is a, let's see, it goes in right here. So there's another idler. I'm going to clean that all up. That will then be enough parts that I can get the longer belts on. I do have belts that came with this machine. They're not in terrible shape. I'll put them on and I'll see if they have that memory from all those years of sitting, or if they're dry rotted. I really haven't checked them out yet. I just want to make sure that it runs quiet. And those belts are actually, they're a match set. They're pretty expensive. I did buy a set for the other 10EE, and I don't remember what they cost, but I just know that they were expensive, and if I don't need to spend the money on that, I won't. But I'm not going to cheap out either after all this effort. If they need to be replaced, I'll do it. Okay, so here is another idler, aluminum drum, couple bearings in it. The bearings actually feel good. You can see it's really pretty scroungy looking. I'll get this broken down, cleaned up, along with the other idler, and then we'll get these things mounted in the belt drive area. Again, just get these parts on there while I still sort of remember how they go. I could go back and look at the videos, pictures. I took a million pictures. I did struggle with the first one with the jigsaw puzzle, trying to get the pieces back, and the videos and pictures are incredibly helpful. The other thing that's really helpful is, if I show you over here, there's another 10EE over there that I took the back cover off, and that's my little template that shows me where everything goes. All right, I'm going to show you cleaning up this. Let me get the carriage out of the way. I'm going to show you cleaning up this idler pulley right here. This one is actually bigger than the other one, so let's see. Rather have the jaws in a little farther. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get close enough. Yeah. I'm just going to Scotch Brite them so I don't need to crank down on it and distort that. Don't even need to polish them up, but I just want to. All right. I don't know if you heard that when I turn the lathe on, it sort of speeds up and then it slows down. So there's a series of relays in the bottom of this thing, and I'm not quite sure what they call that relay, but I've been having trouble with it. The contacts are kind of sticking. So it starts off at a higher speed and then it slows down. I'll get to that at some point. And if you're wondering about protecting the ways with the abrasive Scotch Brite on here, before I move the carriage, I'll clean the ways and everything up. I certainly don't want to be responsible for ruining the really nice ways on this machine in the short time that I've owned it. I have the same issue here. I don't know if you can see that. It's definitely has a little bit of pitting from sitting in that one spot. This one I can definitely feel unevenness from belt wear. And again, I don't think I'm going to mess with it because it's not that significant. All right, let me spin it in. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, we'll get over to assembly. All right, so what I did with these are the original bearings. They were great shape. I just cleaned them out and re-lubricated them. I'm gonna have to do the same as the other side, go back to the press. I can see here where the bearing was, so I'll know exactly how far to press that in. And this is the spacer. What I'd like about, look at this back in the day. So this surface here on both sides is ground, as opposed to, you know, just a piece of tubing that they cut. It literally went back in the day there and they ground that flat. Both sides are ground. All right, I'll be right back after I press it together. All right, got the bearings pressed in along with that center sleeve. I'll get these set screws started. And I'm going to do the same as I did on the other idler. I'm not going to get these set screws tightened down until I like the position of the idler with the. That's kind of weird. So let's see. I must be missing a proper size. It's over by the machine. Okay. All right, so I don't remember exactly the orientation of these parts here, but I will get over to the machine and sort that out, and then we'll get this assembly put back on the machine. All right, back at the machine, we're gonna get that idler pulley that we just cleaned up and reassemble, get that back on here. Okay, so we have the idler pulley, that center sleeve, if that's what they call it. Then this, let's see, goes through here like that. This goes on here, like that. And this spacer, think the orientation is important. I think both of these spacers are the same size. Get a nut on there. That. So it's interesting on this lathe, which is a later model than the other two that I have. Here they're using pins to locate this from swinging. On the earlier models, this piece right here actually had a machined out portion this whole length. So that probably cheapened the part of this, you know, or lowered the cost. I don't think it cheapened it, it just lowered the cost. So we got that, and we'll put this spacer on here. All right. So just going to finger tight for now. I'll check any of the grease off of here. We'll go get some belts and let's see how things line up. Move you back a little bit so you can see the whole sort of scene here. Belts go up in the top there and then down there on the motor, or actually the gearbox on the motor. All right. I'm not so sure about these belts, but we're gonna stick them on anyway. This one is actually turned inside out. There we go. Seems pretty tight, actually. Okay. So that's with no idler pressure on it. Interesting. Just check the other lathe next to this one. It seems about the same. So when I took these off, I really didn't remember how tight they seemed. Definitely want to get your fingers caught in this. And start it on the top and then wind the bottom up. All right. Okay, excuse me while I get my wrench. Probably, I don't know that these pulleys or these idlers are necessarily here to tighten the belt as much as maybe take a little flap out of it. You know, with that distance, I'm sure these guys would be all over the place. Just gonna back it up a little bit. After I run it for a while, I will go back and verify that we have the correct tension on here. What I'm hoping is that the other side of this thing is not turning, and unfortunately it is, so I gotta pull this off. Let's see here. You see how that's turning? So I'm gonna go over to the other bench and get an adjustable on there. Okay, I got this thing tightened up. And of course, I brought my 9/16 wrench over there, so I have to go get my wrench back. And again, I think there's just a little bit of tension here just to keep the belt from flapping. Go get a wrench. And an old yard sale Craftsman. Nice box wrench. Don't see these around anymore. Forged in the USA. Probably paid 50 cents for it or something like that. All right, so it looks like we're in pretty good shape. And we'll keep going. Next thing I'm going to do is this larger pulley right here that is for the open belt. So it goes around here. This is the idler for it, which is adjustable, and then that pulley goes on here. So we'll get that going. All right, so I've got the this big pulley right here. Kind of an interesting thing. So on all of these machines, I have 3 of these machines, and every one, despite the amount of oil and grease everywhere on the inside of these things, these pulleys are always rusted. I just don't understand what it is about that. Were they put on rusted? It's just a strange phenomenon. Anyway, so this guy is going to go on here, and then I've got to go get the nut for this. There's like a lock nut that goes on here. I'll go get that, and there's also a little gadget that goes up there, a little nut with like a castle nut. And then we'll get the flat belt on there. All right, back at the reassembly of the parts, some of these parts. So this guy is on here, and this guy. I might have to get the bigger spanner wrench for this one. This one might be too small for that. So what we'll do is we'll figure out which one. So it looks like this right here was the one that was used before. You could tell by its shape there. So I'll just get a hammer and a punch, and we'll just knock that guy down. You know what I always find interesting with these machines? So I don't know if you can see in this part, there's obviously someone had hit this thing with a pair of vice grips or whatever. You know, over the course of its life, it's obvious that somebody's been into it for various reasons. Never could understand, you know, or I would love to have been a fly on the wall back in the day. You know, why did this part have to come off? What happened that it needed to be repaired? You know, was it just routine maintenance or did something break? But it always seems, you know, interesting that in the life of a lot of these machines, there's this, you know, just like little images that show that this was touched, that was touched. I'm always very curious about that. All right, so that's on there. And let's see if we can stick that belt on. All right, so this is the belt for this. I'm thinking that at some point, that belt I'm going to replace. I got one on my other lathe, I got it from our friends at Monarch. I want to say it was, I don't know, was it pricey? I think it was kind of expensive. I don't really remember what it cost, but it was the only place I could find it. All right, so let's get this thing tightened up. After I run it in, I'll go back and, you know, sort of readjust all these belts and stuff to make sure everything is working correctly. Okay guys, well thanks for watching. I'll have an update for you hopefully next week. with some more content. Thanks for watching.